Hello Adventure Forgers and Pixel Lovers! Welcome to my channel where today we're diving into Blades of Fire, the new hit game from Spanish studio Mercury Steam, the geniuses behind Castlevania, Lords of Shadow and Metroid Dread. Imagine a world where steel is life, an evil queen turns it to stone, and you, a warrior with a magical hammer, have to save the day while forging weapons like you're the medieval Tony Stark. Sounds epic, it is, but is it as sharp as it promises, or as dull as a butter knife? Blades of Fire puts you in the boots of Aron of Lyra, a warrior with more mystery than a lost episode. The world is upside down because Queen Nerea, a villain with Maleficent meets Cruella vibes, has cast a spell that turns steel into stone. Why? Because she wants to rule the world, obviously. What villain doesn't? But here comes the good part. Aron finds an ancient hammer from the Forgers, divine giants who created the world with steel and sweat. With this hammer, Aron and his companion Adso, a young scholar with Atreus from God of War energy, set off on an adventure to defeat Nerea and uncover our hero's hidden past. The narrative is a classic hero's journey with a touch of dark fantasy that echoes Conan the Barbarian or Excalibur. The premise is solid, a world where steel is power, and you have to forge your own path, literally, to survive. The story kicks off abruptly, as if you were thrown on stage with no script. At first, you feel lost, asking, why do I want to kill the queen? Who is this Adso? Why is everyone so serious? But as you progress, the game rewards you with crumbs of lore that come together like an epic puzzle. The story grows over time. The cutscenes, although not The Last of Us, are well directed and include moments that make you say, damn that twist. The relationship between Aron and Adso is a strong point. Their dialogue, although sometimes repetitive, has spark and makes you grow fond of them. Adso, in particular, is a unique snowflake, a medieval nerd who drops historical facts while you dodge swords. Plus, the lore of the Forgers and the devastated world is fascinating if you take the time to explore it. Mercury Steam has crafted a universe with personality, with nods to 80s fantasy films that give it a nostalgic feel. Here comes the first hammer blow. The story takes a while to take off. The first few hours are confusing, and the game doesn't do much to guide you. If you're not the type to read every scroll or chat with Adso, you might feel like I did when trying to assemble IKEA furniture without instructions. Some plot twists near the end try to be epic but feel forced, as if the writer wanted to surprise you at all costs without stitching things properly. And speaking of Aron, the guy is blander than unsalted bread. His silent hero personality doesn't help with connecting at first, though he improves over time. Look, I wanted Aron to have a bit more charisma, you know? Give me a hero that cracks a joke or at least throws a one-liner before smashing a troll. But when Adso starts telling you stories about the Forgers while exploring a cave full of enemies, you feel like Indiana Jones with an assistant carrying a notebook. It's like Mercury Steam said, let's make the protagonist serious, but his buddy will be the life of the party. And hey, it works. Sort of. If Blades of Fire has something that shines brighter than a freshly forged sword, it's its gameplay. The game stands on 3 pillars: tactical combat, an innovative forging system, and exploration Metroidvania style. Let's break it down because there's a lot to slice here. The combat is a mix of God of War 2018 and a light Souls-like, but with a tactical twist that makes it unique. Each button on the controller, X, Y, A, B, corresponds to a type of attack. Left hit, right hit, high or low. Enemies have specific weak points, and the game highlights them with a color system. Green, go wild. Orange, meh, it'll work. Or red, switch weapons, buddy. This forces you to think before button mashing because every enemy needs a different strategy. For example, a giant troll might be weak to high strikes with a spear, while a bouncing dwarf, yes, there are dwarves that use swords like pogo sticks, calls for a low hit with a mace. The combat is satisfying, with a weight that makes every hit feel like a hammer blow. Dismemberments are brutal. Bye-bye troll arm. And add a gore factor that'll make Doom fans smile. The enemy variety, over 50 types, keeps things fresh, from generic soldiers to grotesque creatures that look ripped from a Goya painting. Also, the parry and block system is a gem. Blocking regenerates your stamina, encouraging defensive play without punishing you like in other Souls-likes. Though combat is fun, it sometimes lacks rhythm. The attacks are slow and deliberate, which suits the tactical tone but may feel clunky if you're after something more fluid like Devil May Cry. The forging minigame, while cool, can be a headache at first because hammering steel to match a design is trickier than my relationship with the gym. And speaking of durability, yep, weapons break, which adds tension but also frustration if your favorite sword shatters mid-boss fight. I love the combat, but I'll confess, at first I felt like a rookie blacksmith trying to forge a blade with a YouTube tutorial. Once you get the hang of it, it's a blast. But no lie, I've shouted "No my spear" more times than I care to admit. And those pogo sword dwarves, who designed them? They're like gremlins on Red Bull, but when you land a perfect parry and decapitate an enemy, you feel like a god of war, or at least a distant cousin of Kratos. The forging system is the heart of Blades of Fire. With Aaron's hammer, you can craft weapons from scratch, choosing type, spears, swords, maces, etc. Materials, wood, steel, etc. And design, blade length, hilt, etc. Each choice affects stats, damage, reach, durability, weight. For instance, a long handle on a warhammer increases damage but lowers speed. Then you go into a minigame where you hammer the steel to match a chalk design. If you nail it, your weapon gets more stars. More repairs allowed. This system is awesome. I've never seen a game give you this much control over your weapons. There are 35 weapon blueprints, and customizing them feels like playing The Sims with swords. The feeling of creating a weapon and then using it to crush enemies is incredibly satisfying. Plus, the resources you gather while exploring make every material feel important. Like you're a medieval chef looking for the perfect ingredients for your chaos recipe. The forging minigame isn't super intuitive at first. Hammering steel. To match the design is like trying to draw a perfect circle freehand. Also, resources are scarce, and forging eats up so much that at times you feel like you're working in a factory instead of saving the world. And yeah, limited weapon durability can be a pain. Losing your favorite weapon at a key moment is like running out of phone battery during an important call. I, who burns water when boiling it, felt like a master blacksmith when I made my first 5-star sword. But I won't lie, I failed so many times I thought Aaron would fire me as his apprentice. The forging system is a brilliant idea, but Mercury Steam, please give us a clearer tutorial. That said, when you craft a spear that looks straight out of Lord of the Rings and use it to impale a troll, you feel like the MVP of the forge. Now let's talk about exploration. The game takes a semi-open world approach, split into large interconnected zones like God of War 2018 or Lords of Shadow. Each area has its own visual identity, from burning villages to cursed forests and ancient forges in ruins. As you progress and get new tools, like climbing hooks, fire bombs, or even teleportation devices, you can return to previous places and unlock new paths, classic Metroidvania style. Exploration is rewarding. You'll find weapon blueprints, rare materials, lore scrolls, and optional boss fights that make you sweat like a gladiator. Mercury Steam has nailed level design. Each zone has verticality, secrets, and enemies placed with care. Also, fast travel through teleporters saves you from tedious backtracking. It's a pleasure to walk through this world, especially thanks to the art direction. Here's the problem. The map is a mess. There's no clear mini-map, just a general image of the zone that doesn't show your exact location or points of interest. At times, you wander like a headless chicken, trying to remember if you went left or right 3 hours ago. Also, the backtracking, although rewarding, can be repetitive, especially if you're hunting for all the collectibles. I love exploring this world, but seriously, Mercury Steam, how hard is it to give us a proper map? I've spent more time lost than a tourist without Google Maps. That said, when you find a secret forge hidden behind a waterfall or a colossal boss guarding a treasure chest, it's all worth it. The reward for curiosity is real, and that's something few games do so well. Visually, Blades of Fire is spectacular. The art direction is its strongest card. The world oozes personality, mixing classic fantasy with dark gothic elements. You feel like you're inside a painting by Frank Frazetta with touches of Berserk and Dark Souls. The lighting, textures, and effects like fire or steel particles shine, especially on next-gen consoles or powerful PCs. Character and enemy designs are impressive, especially the bosses, which look like they came straight from a metal album cover. The animations are a bit stiff at times, especially Aaron's running or when interacting with objects. Also, the lip sync in cutscenes is often off, which breaks immersion a bit. But hey, it's a Spanish studio, and they've done a tremendous job with a medium budget. Musically, we've got an epic orchestral soundtrack that hits when it should. The battle themes pump you up, and the exploration melodies are atmospheric. The voice acting is decent. Adzo steals the show with his charismatic delivery, while Aaron, well, he grunts a lot. The sound effects, like the clanging of steel and monster roars, are top-notch. There are bugs. Yeah, I've had enemies stuck in walls, weapons floating in midair, and an instance where Adzo wouldn't shut up and repeated the same line 10 times. But nothing that ruins the experience. It's more funny than frustrating. The art is stunning. There's a moment when you enter an abandoned forge with lava running down the walls, and I literally stopped to admire it. I even took a screenshot for my wallpaper. Mercury Steam, seriously, hire an animator just for Aaron's face. He deserves it. But hats off to the visual work, which makes the game stand out even more. Blades of Fire is a risky bet and a triumph for Spanish development. It dares to mix genres, Souls-like, Metroidvania, and crafting sim, and comes out swinging. The combat is satisfying, the forging system is innovative, and the world is one you'll want to explore to the last corner. Sure, it's not perfect. The pacing falters, the map is frustrating, and Aaron is as expressive as a brick, but the sum of its parts makes it a memorable experience. It's a game that rewards dedication and curiosity. If you like forging your own destiny, literally, this title is for you. It's not just about swinging swords, it's about creating them. If Mercury Steam refines these mechanics in a sequel, we could be looking at one of the great modern fantasy sagas. Final score, 8.5 out of 10. Blades of Fire burns bright, and although it doesn't forge perfection, it comes damn close. If you enjoyed this review, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments, what would your dream forged weapon look like? Until next time, warriors!